Starts with an order coming in from a doctor at a hospital, say for example for an emergency supply of blood. Then once it's all packed up, it gets passed out to be placed in the belly of the drone, and then the whole thing is placed on the launcher. At that point they attach the wings, then secure the battery, followed by the nose cone. Then after some pre-flight safety checks, they launch the drone, all within 90 seconds of the order coming in. The catapult launcher takes the drone from 0 to 65 miles an hour in a third of a second, which is literally less time than it takes you to blink. And it's a pretty clever design too, because it means the drone immediately starts at its cruising speed, where it takes much less energy to stay airborne. Then once it's in the air cruising at 70 miles per hour, it navigates its way to the hospital, and upon arriving, opens the trap door to drop the package, which lands safely using a parachute. Having now completed.
Hello, I'm back again, and I want to discuss drone deliveries and how it's gonna basically affect how we receive things in the future. It's probably going to affect how we even do a lot of things, like look for things. There's a whole lot of applications that can involve drone delivery, drone pickup, and this is going to look into a couple of those. It's mainly going to look at it from a medical standpoint. He starts off with like delivering a product, but I think it's a great application here that they use in this particular video.
This is the very near future of package delivery from a company called Zipline. It's been over a decade since we were first promised drone delivery that looked like this, and to be honest, I was never that stoked about it because I couldn't imagine that anyone would actually want something that big and loud with dangerously fast spinning propellers landing anywhere near their house.
Honestly, I kind of felt like that too initially when I heard about it, but I'm slowly starting to get on the fence. Mainly not just about deliveries, but in regards to using them for other types of not exactly product deliveries, but other types of deliveries and other types of pickup.
And that was a bummer, because with the explosion of people using Amazon or food delivery apps like DoorDash or Instacart, billions of doorstep deliveries are now happening every year. But when your lunch only weighs a few ounces, driving it to everyone with these 2-ton gas-powered vehicles is wildly inefficient, bad for the whole planet, and not to mention just really slow. Drone delivery would not only take a lot of cars off the road, but it would be a lot faster than a car, it would be fully electric, fully autonomous, and it would cost pennies worth of energy per delivery. And
Did you notice, was that like another drone dropping off a secondary drone? That was interesting. It looked like it was. But what he mentioned, it was a good point in regards to saving gas and keeping the air clean. But I would hope there's a job transfer there in regards to the guys who usually drive would probably have the job as keeping up with the drones, kind of maintaining them. We'll see that further down the line in the video, where it shows them basically organizing the drones and keeping them in line, keeping them well maintained and clean and things like that.
Zipline, because the droid that lowers the package can move laterally in any direction, it can make a dartboard-sized precision landing even in high winds, while the main drone can stay 400 feet up in the sky, making the whole thing whisper quiet. That is very quiet. Also due in part to the clever design of these really funky propellers. As you all know, I only make about 10 videos a year, and while most are just sort of ridiculous, I like to dedicate one video to showcase how clever people are using engineering to change the world for the better. And to be clear, the company I'm talking about today is not sponsoring this or paying me in any way. I'm just really impressed by the work that they're doing and how they're doing it. So we'll circle back in a minute to exactly how they're going to pull off deliveries using these short-range drones in a city, but it begs the question, if they can make it work there, why not use gliding drones to cover longer distances to deliver critical medical supplies for countries with lots of remote villages? Well, as it turns out, catapulting life-saving blood through the skies is what they've already been doing for over 6 years, which is why we need to head out to Rwanda to understand where this all started. And immediately after showing up, we were right in the thick of it, as drones were taking off and landing as another one lands every 90 seconds. They're coming from everywhere. And as a newcomer, it felt a bit chaotic, but if you're gonna rack up 40 million miles worth of drone flights, your team needs to be operating with the efficiency of an F1 pit crew. So
This is an awesome idea, how they use this to deliver blood, and they could probably also use this to deliver medical equipment, right? I see so many other applications for this. Like, let's say there was an accident, you're stranded, and while they're waiting on the ambulance, the drone could deliver life-saving equipment, life-saving medical devices, or you can find lost people. I mean, or even lost pets, but yeah, mainly lost people. Not just including lost devices, but there's a whole lot of great applications I see with this. Just watching this video, just all these things are rushing through my head at once. I hope I'm not talking too fast, but I kind of get excited when I see things like this and think of all the different ways that it could be used.
Crash course on how it all works. It all starts with an order coming in from a doctor at a hospital. Say, for example, for an emergency supply of blood. Then once it's all packed up, it gets passed out to be placed in the belly of the drone, and then the whole thing is placed on the launcher. At that point, they attach the wings, then secure the battery, followed by the nose cone. Then after some pre-flight safety checks, they launch the drone, all within 90 seconds of the order coming in. The catapult launcher takes the drone from 0 to 65 miles an hour in a third of a second, which is literally less time than it takes you to blink. And it's a pretty clever design too, because it means the drone immediately starts at its cruising speed, where it takes much less energy to stay airborne. Then once it's in the air cruising at 70 miles per hour, it navigates its way to the hospital, and upon arriving, opens the trap door to drop the package, which lands safely using a parachute. Having now completed the mission, it continues making all its own decisions to autonomously navigate back home from as far away as 150 miles round trip. Then taking inspiration from an aircraft carrier, as the drone approaches, the military-grade GPS broadcasts its position within 1 centimeter, so these two poles know exactly when to swing up at the last possible moment, snagging a hook on the tail with the cable, which safely slows it down. Then once it's settled to a stop, their crew comes in to remove the battery and wings, and it all goes back into rotation. The whole thing is really impressive and incredibly robust, which means
as I was mentioning earlier, I guess you could save delivery time with this system, and delivery drivers could, again, the job transfer could transfer over to this type of task, right? Maintaining the drones, maintaining the drone infrastructure, changing parts, that type of thing. I mean, I don't know how that would look as far as the nuts and bolts of it, but just looking from a organizational level and just from a job transfer level, I think it's actually a great idea, as far as like a cleaner idea.
It works in pretty much any weather. And because there's no human steering it, it has no issues flying at night. So they run the operation 24 hours a day, which is how in 6 years, they've managed to make those 500,000 often life-saving deliveries. That is the uppermost top of the iceberg tip of how they're doing what they're doing. But what you should know is 6 years ago, all the experts told them this was a hopeless cause and failure was a near certainty, and they kind of weren't wrong.
Building an engineering product takes time. So you prototype, you build it, and then you fail, and then you try it again, and you fail, and you try it again until you have the shiny product that you want. This is a different type of aircraft. This is not what we had. The first one used to land on these inflated mattresses. The vehicle had a hook on the back. You had the tail.
Yeah.
The tail would deploy like an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And then the fishing pole would pull it, and it would land on the mattress.
First of all, he's not saying that figuratively. They were scrappy in the early days, using actual fishing poles, as you can see here. And secondly, this is Abdul. And what you should know about Abdul is he grew up in Rwanda, not far from where these drones are launching. And while he would eventually go on to do graduate work in robotics, attending both Stanford and Harvard, he got his start in engineering for much more simple means.
I think this is the case with anything new. You're going to have a lot of failures. Just in general, you have a lot of failures, and that's part of the game in a lot of cases, right? Nothing on average works the first time you try it. Even when you get something in the mail, we all know when we put something together, it doesn't work the first time, or it doesn't go together correctly the way we try to put it together. When you fix something, it doesn't work right away. That's just how life is. So whenever you're trying something brand new, it's gonna take a lot of failure. Sometimes 1,000 times, literally. Sometimes 1,500, sometimes 10. I'm talking literal numbers, I'm not exaggerating. So it's just part of the process of improving or starting something new.
That I would make cars from milk boxes that was left over. We would add tires there and use it as a car.
Abdul was orphaned as a child when he lost both of his parents and all 3 of his siblings in the Rwandan genocide, narrowly escaping himself. But he didn't give up on his passion for engineering, and so as he got older, he would go around to all the local hospitals fixing their MRI machines for free using knowledge he gained from watching YouTube videos. Abdul was the very first zipline employee in Rwanda, and he really helped to pioneer so many of the systems they have in place today that are now used all over the world. And so in an effort to test those very systems, I wanted to see if it was robust enough that even a total noob like me could send out an order. Oh, we got one. Panic!
Don't worry.
Don't worry, okay. Gloves, okay. Good enough. This is where the blood is, right?
O positive.
It's O positive.
Yeah.
I feel like I shouldn't be touching this. Stay calm, that's the #1 rule.
Now you scan.
Scan it,
Do 6 reps.
like this.
2, 3, 4.
5, okay. Ah. Just out here saving lives. And once I ring the bell, it's the drone team's problem. Okay, what do I do?
Check if it's not tangled.
And push it here. Out of my way, I'm coming through. The wings, how's that? Battery! Which one do we pick? There's so many. So after a final check of the drone's condition, a little bit of a look to the right and cough, we had liftoff. I'm a hero! We did it! I just saved a life, basically. Wow. How do you guys do this all day long? So now that I had a pretty good feel for the launch site, we headed out to see where some of these drones were actually flying to. So we left the launch site like 3.5 hours ago. We're driving to this remote hospital on these really windy roads. And as we've been driving, we've been tracking and seeing some of these zipline drones delivering blood and medical supplies to this hospital. So since we're about a half hour out, I thought it would be fun to place my own emergency order, and it could meet us when we get there. Because when you need extra ointment, you just need extra ointment. And sure enough, a few minutes after arriving, I got a notification for an incoming package. This is wild because we're like 4 hours away on some really windy roads. I got it! Close, so close. And so after opening the package and checking their handiwork, I asked if I could speak to a few of the doctors. When's the last time you delivered a baby?
In few minutes ago.
A few minutes? That's pretty fresh.
For the doctors, it was like a miracle.
With zipline, we are sure that in 15 to 20 minutes we are going to get what.
This is a really, really great application for this. And it was just amazing. I was ready to see the finish line or wherever they landed and how that was processed. I like how they have basically a streamlined process and everything basically works like clockwork. And again, you could use this with a lot of things. I know this is probably going to save a lot of lives just in general, and I can see this growing in use in different ways. And I'm kind of glad I stumbled upon this video to kind of look at it and review it. I'm gonna stop here. I'm not gonna take up too much of your time, but I appreciate your time you take out to watch this. And thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.